Hi, my name is Michelle Sheppard. I am a presenter of Joy FM and also a Transgender Community Liaison Officer through Fitted for Work. Today I have Renae Lowry, who's a Executive General Manager from MatchWorks. Hi Renae, how are you?
I'm excellent, how are you?
I'm doing well. Renae, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and actually have a chat. Through some of the work I've been doing around trans employment on a project I'm working on through Jobs Victoria, I've had the pleasure of actually making connection with your organization, and some of the things that we've started working together have made me want to get to know you a little bit more and share with the audience who and what you are as well.
No, it's a delight to be here. Thank you for having me.
So Renae, tell me a little bit about MatchWorks and who you are.
Sure, we're part of a broader organisation called GenU. We were started about 65 years ago by a group of mums who had children with a disability, and they realised pretty early on back then that it was going to be difficult for their children to be included in the community. So they started a playgroup of their own rather than trying to slot their children into some existing playgroups. So out of that's kind of spawned a really large organisation now. So we're about 3,000 people operating in every state except for the Northern Territory and Tasmania.
Since your foundings, you pretty much understand the barriers and challenges that you might face with the community in general.
Everywhere we go and everything we do as an organisation is all about creating inclusive communities. It's absolutely our underpinning value as an organisation.
So you said you're Australia-wide?
Yes, we have 160 offices that we operate right around the country now. So our heartland is in Geelong. It's where we were originally formed, and we do a whole lot of other services in Geelong under the brand of GenU. So a whole lot of disability services and aged care services as well.
So beyond disability and aged care, what other services do you provide to the wider community?
A lot of mainstream activities that generate that inclusion agenda. So we'll often be working with communities and businesses and other services to create opportunities for people to be able to enter and have absolutely included lifestyles. So more and more we want people to be independent and accessing the community of their own accord, but a lot of people need that assistance from us to get that access. And we believe in a vision of the future where people will be absolutely included, and we won't work on a deficit model. So I think in a lot of ways we see people always looking at what people can't do rather than what they can. So that's our objective, that we move to a capability model rather than a deficit model.
So one of the ways we've connected actually is through a project I'm working on, it's very personal to me, is around trans employment. And one of the things that you and I've discussed earlier as well is how sometimes we don't know what's actually out there to actually help if we're not educated to begin with.
I think that's the most delightful thing about our relationship with Fitted for Work and with you in particular. It's been a great way, instead of us having to reinvent the wheel and create the services internally in MatchWorks, we partner with other organisations, and the beauty of when we do that is that not only do we create a great connection with you and a great connection of services for people in the trans world, but also we connect with your connections as well. So out of that we grow exponentially. What we don't ever want to do is try to replicate things that you're a specialist at. We would rather connect with other organisations in their specialty, and we do this across a variety of networks around the country. So it's what I think makes communities great.
Agreed. It actually becomes a community then, because I find that so many organisations try to recreate the wheel constantly, and it's been my passion for the past 5 years to find who are the specialists, well, probably not really masters or specialists anyway, but who've got the finger in the pie to say, how can we work together better and create that conversation better?
And trust is also a really important commodity, and I say we trade in trust. So when people trust your organisation and trust you and realise that we're aligned with you, they'll trust us. And until we have absolutely explicit and implicit trust between ourselves and our job seekers and our employers, it's really hard to influence proper change. So people will change and grow exponentially when trust is there implicitly.
Agreed. Some of the feedback we've actually recently received in some focus groups we ran with MatchWorks through Fitted for Work as well, is that things around social isolation. We don't really know what services actually exist beyond, say, your GP or mental health, and MatchWorks is going out of the way to make sure that it is a safe, inclusive place.
And more we find that people don't fit in places. They don't have a sense of belonging. So we really, I think if we do anything more conscientiously than anything else, we try to create a sense of belonging for people, because people are often surprised, particularly in a social media kind of way, is that they often feel excluded from a lot of things. And work defines us, it's who we are. People say, hi, my name's Renae, I get people jobs. So it's my definition, it's what happens in Western societies. But if you don't have a job, how do you define yourself? How do you belong somewhere if you don't work somewhere? So we try to play an intermediate role there and substitute that sense of belonging for people until they're able to make that transition for themselves out into the open labour market, and then find their sense of belonging and their place out in work.
One of the things I've been pretty fortunate to have done is connect with many other executives within your level. And I do believe that there becomes this invisible barrier, curtain to not understand who you are. So I always think it's important for people to get to know who the person is in your particular role. And I'd like to maybe give you just a chance to share a bit about yourself with me as well, with even the people listening, to why you're so passionate.
I was in a really interesting situation when I finished uni. I'd studied to be a teacher. It was what I thought I always wanted to do. And then I got in front of a classroom and realised really quickly that I didn't like children. And it was really disturbing for me at the time. And I'm like, what do I do when I've spent my whole life working towards being this? Who am I now that I can't do this?
But let's be honest, you get kids yourself, but I'm assuming it's about mass
No,
children.
I like my own children. They're fine. They're fine. I'll keep them. But no, it's just generally children en masse.
Yeah.
And so it was really difficult for me to then go, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So I was lucky that I live by the kind of one door, no wrong door concept, that I walked into an agency and they said, well, we've got some work here. Why don't you come and work for us? And that was the start of me really finding the place that I belonged. And I realised how much work was about, you know, who I was as a person. And I love what I do every single day of the week. I get to come in and change people's lives. And we put over 2,000 people a month into work.
That's amazing.
It is amazing life-changing
wow.
experiences that we can create every single day in our organisation. So as soon as I found that sense of belonging for me, which was getting people jobs, that's when I started to realise how important it was to create that sense of belonging for our job seekers.
If I could at least get on top of a quarter of that 2,000 for the trans community, that would I would just feel like I've achieved what I've come out to do in this project.
I don't think you always realise what the future's going to hold as well. I think if you had have asked me 20 years ago whether I thought that would be what I'd be doing today, no way would I have had this kind of vision or ambition for myself, but I think you might surprise yourself if you...
Oh, I reckon.
If you keep working towards it, I think you'll accomplish things that you never thought you were capable of.
Well, if you said to me 5 years ago when I did finally come out that I'd be sitting here with you having this conversation, trying to make change for a wider community that I'm part of and passionate about, who are really struggling and hurting, I'd be like, nah, no way. But Renae, I do have to say thank you so much for coming out and taking this time and putting trust in me and my organization to work with you to help make this change.
No, I'm delighted to be here, and I look forward to many more years of more life-changing experiences with you.
My name is Michelle Sheppard. Thank you for listening. You've been watching Ben TV.